the lawyer who wins the day, right? The client who wins the day won't always be the best lawyer. Most time, it's the most prepared lawyer.
Correct.
Nothing beats hard work. Hard work will outwin innate ability any day of the week. Welcome to Above the Legal Limit. I'm your host, Justin Chopin, business owner, lawyer, dad, world's best husband, traveler, and adventure seeker. On this podcast, we mix business with pleasure. We'll dive into growth strategies, entrepreneurial adventures, the business of law, and prove that business isn't boring. So let's get ready because we are going above the legal limit. All right, welcome to the show. We have a very special guest today. I'm very excited that we have Phil Lorio, one of my law partners here, as a guest this morning. Or as I like to call him, Limits Lorio. Limits Lorio, because Phil never accepts anything less than full value plus for his clients.
Go for it every time, and do your best to get there if you can.
There you go. One of the things Phil and I like to talk about a lot is our approach to the practice, and is why I invited him on the show today, because I think that he gives a good perspective in the practice of law. You'll see a lot of different styles out there of litigators, right? You've got the 10,000-pound gorilla, you got the bulldog, you got the lazy lawyer, right? You got the real, they're all animals, right? You have the little snake who that you can't trust. Phil's none of those things. So tell us about your style.
Well, first off, thanks, Justin. That's a big compliment you just relayed there, because I live, breathe, and die by this profession and this job. I hesitate to say job, by this profession, honestly, this livelihood. You can't build a case, you can't represent a client without being plugged into them. I was mentioning right before we got on the microphone this morning the fact that I'm always looking at my phone, as many attorneys do. But the real fact of the matter is that's our means of communication. That's our line to our clients. We can't know what's going on if we're not speaking with them and knowing what's going on with their general life. And obviously there's a big focus in what we do on their medical treatment, so we always need to know that. But likewise, people live, and day in and day out, something's changing, which allows for there not to be any single case that's the same. I've got a client right now who has been receiving medical treatment in New Orleans and reached out recently to say, hey, I'm moving to Montgomery. I need to find a new doctor there. And so that's something he's working on. But if you're not answering the phone for your client, you don't know where they are.
You'll never know. Yeah. One of the things I think is interesting, our clients come from all different walks of life, and some of them have had catastrophic injuries. And so they've got real things going on in their lives. We've had clients who are suicidal. Right? We've had clients welcoming children. We've had clients who were hurt while they were pregnant and unable to have the treatment that they need, and then they reach out to us and let us know that they've had a baby girl, or that and so, but you won't know those things if you're not plugged in to their life, right?
Right, and the insurance companies want it to be formulaic. They want to see a certain type of treatment at the beginning, at the middle, and at the end. We've talked about this before, and the fact of the matter is, like you just mentioned, I mean, somebody might become pregnant during the course of their representation and their treatment, and they may not be able to receive the procedures that have been recommended to them. Does that mean they're not dealing with the pain? Absolutely not. No. By all means, as far as we understand, pregnancy can create further problems if experiencing lower back pain, for instance. But nonetheless, was that never caused by the accident because that's at play? Absolutely not. And you have to advocate for that. And you have to say, well, she can't be doing this. She's dealing with this. And that's all part of the pain and suffering that goes into that claim.
Right. I like to think of it, we take like a more holistic approach, or perhaps maybe the term a humanistic approach. That's kind of, I find our firms in that sweet spot. We're not so big that we're like a big box firm, right? Where it is formulaic, and we're not so small that we don't have the resources for our clients.
Yep.
So I like to think of it, as like a tailor-made suit, right? It's really the way you want your lawyer to be, right? Everybody wants to go into the lawyer's office and to sit down and to map out a plan. Much like you go to a doctor's office and you sit down and you weigh your options, right? Nobody wants a Scantron test, a checkbox.
Yeah.
And you see those lawyers that have it, right? They come in their deposition with their, their script. They just read out their questions.
Right.
It doesn't get a good result.
Yeah.
It doesn't lead to a happy client.
Right.
And honestly, all you've done is wasted everyone's time.
Well, it's funny you say that, Justin. So as far as hearing the client out on what has transpired over the course of the initial problem and then through the course of, them retaining us and up until that moment, I'm heading to a mediation today, which I believe in mediation at this point. It's come with some real resolution for our clients and some closure there. And it doesn't always mean that we solve the problem that day. Let me back up, though. The reason I was bringing that up was because these clients had bought a new home. In living there, they find more and more issues with the home that they've been experiencing.
Oh, okay. That's your mediation today.
Yes.
I know what you're talking about.
So the clients came to me initially, and when I start asking them what's going on, they're telling me everything, and it's a lot of information that's necessary, but to drop in a conversation. And what they did, it was following that initial conversation of giving the bird's eye view of what was happening. They went back and they typed up a timeline for me. That's how strongly they felt about what had happened to them, the problems they were facing because of these issues. And so now we're at a point in their case where we've gone with some experts and we've gathered some evidence so far to see if this is a juncture that can reach resolution. If it can, great. But I also like to look at mediation as a time to get the perspective from the other side, okay? And I don't just mean what they're coming with to the table as far as dollar amounts go. That's obviously helpful. But at the same time, knowing where they find their strengths and weaknesses to be, so that I tell clients all the time, if we don't necessarily settle at that time during that day, it doesn't mean we can't settle days going forward.
That's what tomorrow's for.
Right. But we also get to explore those areas that they've exposed as what they find to be their case.
That's interesting because, that's the difference between a defense lawyer and a plaintiff's lawyer, right? And so you and I both, we talk about it a lot. Our defense background, our classically trained litigation background gives us some perspective. But one of those key differences is, as a plaintiff's lawyer, we build the case. And as a defense lawyer, it's a little easier, really. You just have to knock it down, right? Like my 6-year-old, right? You just go in and just start swinging bats. Yeah. But because you have got to build the case, you're really kind of wearing everything on your sleeve, right? You kind of have to put it all out there. You can't hide the ball too much. And so you're right. So at mediation, sometimes it's an opportunity to hear what their defenses are because they know your case. Yeah. Right. They kind of already, you don't have a whole lot of things, in your back pocket, but what you really don't know is what their defenses are, or maybe just even what their approach to your claims will be.
Right.
Sometimes I'm surprised at a mediation to hear that, well, we think X, Y, Z, and you think, wow, okay, I did not expect you to go there.
Right.
And so you're right. Even if you don't settle, it's good to get the dialogue between the two sides to see,
so
okay,
even
there
when
room?
Those surprises arise in mediation, we have to spitball like we do here.
Yeah, right. And that's what we did.
or we go back to the office and dig right in, or both.
That is, I think, probably somebody says, like, what do you do? Like, what do you do all day? And I think probably most of my day is spent either paying bills for our clients or spitballing problem solving, either problem solving for our clients, problem solving in the case, strategies. You're right. I mean, but that is where that sort of tailor-made representation comes from. Because again, like you're not using a checkbox. You're sitting down and using your brain.
Yeah,
it's exhausting.
And it gets back to the initial point we were just discussing, in that only comes from the client. That experience only comes from the client, and we are a means of communicating that. But the only way we can know that is to receive the information from them.
Yeah.
Well,
taking it back to sort of the original topic, one of the things I think is fun about practicing law with Phil is his approach to opposing counsel. And this is an issue we deal with a lot, where sometimes our clients will mistake our friendliness with the other side or our collegiate atmosphere as being that, for some reason we're in cahoots with the defense, right? And which is crazy because I only get paid when my client gets paid. I only have a successful result when they have a successful result. And so it doesn't pay to view your case that way. But where Phil wears them down, limits Lorio, where he comes in is he takes this other approach that's very unique. And I've talked to a lot of defense lawyers who, by the time they're done working with Phil, they want to settle the case with you. They're like, well, he's just so damn nice that, and so your strategy is very different and not what a lot of, the I'll call them lay people, the non-attorneys, not what they expect litigators to be, but you're killing with kindness. You're killing them with being prepared, killing with preparedness, And so, but when you put it all together, what you're left with is this really great way of practicing law is that the defense lawyer knows that you're prepared, right? So they're not rolling their eyes. They know you're not bluffing. They know that you have the experience, and then you're constantly responding to them. So they know that you're plugged in, but then you're really nice and polite when you do it. And it's that last step that I think carries the ball, not every time, but maybe 95% of the time. And we can contrast that with another style of litigation, right? And so I have another partner who is also prepared, absolutely, is also 100% plugged in.
Yeah.
But is just relentless in his approach and like a bulldog. And so there you can watch, I can from 32,000 feet. I can watch my two teams play, and I can see what Phil's doing, and I can see what he's doing. And it's always interesting because your style leads, I think, to a better result sometimes, not every time, but also just a better work-life balance.
Yeah.
A better, relationship with other lawyers in the profession.
Well, that's, again, quite the compliment, Justin. Thank you. When I switched from being a defense attorney and was really toying with coming to represent individuals on the plaintiff side, I had a lot of people tell me, including family members, who were very hesitant about my decision. In fact, maybe reaching the level of discouraging, but nonetheless, because part of their reason was you don't have the attitude to do it. You don't have that attitude that most plaintiffs' attorneys have. And I took that advice and I said, well, maybe I don't. But you have to listen to yourself. And not only in that sense of letting the other voices subside, but also being yourself in your style in practicing law. That doesn't go for just plaintiffs' attorneys. That goes for defense attorneys too. If you let your inner self shine, and really in any profession, but particularly in litigation where you're supposed to be relating to juries and judges and opposing counsel, being true to yourself is huge. So that other partner that you mentioned at our firm, who of course I know exactly who you're referring to.
I'll just say that's actually just my father, so I can just say it. It's no secret, but
Well, the point I was going to make about that was that, your dad and I have worked on cases together, and it's been extremely fun where by nature of our two personalities, it comes to, good cop, bad cop type scenario that works out well for the client in the end.
It's good cop. The good cop, bad cop routine does work sometimes. That is good, right? He'll beat them down, and then you can come and, be like, hey, buddy, come on. I'm sure we can work some of this out.
Right, but the whole thing, too, about being collegial or being yourself for that matter and doing all of this, I've got enough to have my blood pressure rise. If I'm trying to be somebody that I'm not, or trying to pick a fight with people where I don't need to pick a fight with people, then my heart's going to explode. I don't need that.
Well, and you got to be level-headed, And the other thing, some of the advice I give some of the younger attorneys is, you don't just do this for a year, right? This isn't school. School's easy because it's for a defined period of time. Right, so you can do anything for 3 years, right? In law school, you can do anything for that amount of time. But this is different. This is actually going to last the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So how do you want to spend the rest of your life? Do you want to do it this way, where your blood pressure is always on the rise, and you're stressed out, and you're bringing your work home, and you're or do you want to spend your life in a different way, where you enjoy your clients, you enjoy your practice, you make a good living, you're relaxed. When you go home, you can talk about your day, but in a different way, you know. So
I think a lot of that too comes with knowing what you can control and can't control. We can't control everything that has transpired for our client. Frankly, if we could, we would have avoided that 18-wheeler hitting
absolutely.
The car. But when it comes to that, we can't control everything, and realizing that not only in what we do, but by leading others in our office, because we all have teams at this office, but delegating work or addressing mistakes to your team and to yourself. If it's something you can't control, that's one thing, and so to couple that, preparedness is so knowing where the things you can't control cause problems and addressing those is really the formula to make a case good and just to have an enjoyable practice.
And I really do agree with you on the preparedness, because it's a little bit like when you were in school. Do you know that feeling you have where maybe it didn't even happen? Well, come on, bullshit. We all know what happened. You went to the test, you showed up, you didn't know the answer, and the anxiety it caused.
Yeah.
So for our listeners, there's a lot of history here. Phil and I grew up together, and our families go back, I don't know, 3 generations or something like that.
Well, they were in law school together.
Well, but your grandfather
That's
and my
true.
grandparents,
Yeah,
our
yeah,
grandparents,
before
we
that,
go back well beyond that. So his mother was my professor several times in law school. And years after law school, I woke up in a blind panic that I was unprepared for her exam. Which is completely ridiculous, and so I actually did great in your mother's class, but the point is preparedness gives a sense of calm and reassurance, not just to the client, but also to you. If you are prepared, so I often say the lawyer who wins the day, right? The client who wins the day won't always be the best lawyer. Most time, it's the most prepared lawyer.
Correct.
And nothing beats hard work. Hard work will outwin innate ability any day of the week.
Totally, because
Every
in
single
that
time.
sense, you know where the issues lie, and you have a response for it.
Right.
Whether or not it's a good one, at least you know the talking points.
Yeah, and so I'll say this about Dad. His style is, and you're right. You have to be true to yourself. That's his style. I can't be that person either. But I've never seen a lawyer more prepared than he is.
Yeah.
So,
and it surprises me at times on cases where I don't even necessarily know whether he's plugged in or not. It always reassures me that he knows every angle of that case before he's talking.
He knows. He's like that kid in school that always says like, "Oh, did you study? Oh, I haven't even studied yet," and then gets like the highest grade in the class.
Right.
They were studying the whole time. They were messing with
There's
you.
a reason he's been doing it for over 4 decades, and is known
years.
as being one of the best trial attorneys in the state of Louisiana.
But I like your style, Phil, because it's that's a calm, reassuring style. So I know you've got a mediation to get to. You gonna settle?
This might be one of those we scope out the weaknesses and the strengths of the case.
All right, fair enough.
We'll see.
I love this case that you're going to go to. It's not our usual bread and butter. We are a personal injury firm, but we also do property damage cases, and we all have the background to do different work. So
I love the property damage cases. You have a home, it's damaged, you're living in there day in and day out.
Yeah.
But in this particular scenario, I've had a family had to move out of their home with their kids. It's like, come on, what do we need to do to get them some compensation for something that's been wrong and get the problem fixed and move on? That is one of the talk about the things you can't control in this profession, but does tend to frustrate the heck out of me. Is how long it takes, and I know that's frustrating for our clients too.
It is frustrating for the clients because they're living in a damaged home if they're lucky. You know, the lucky ones are still in their home damaged. The unlucky ones are not.
Right.
They're not at home. What's interesting about your case that you're about to mediate is, without naming any names, of course, how many other clients, potential clients,
Yes.
we've consulted with the same defendant.
Yes.
Remarkable.
Yeah.
I never in a million years would I have expected just sort of that pervasive negligence in home building.
Right. Right.
So, well, all right. Well, hey, thanks a lot, Phil. I appreciate it. Thanks for being a guest. I was hoping I'm going to have you come back.
Thanks for having me. This was, more fluid than I would anticipate. Justin and I did not prepare. We came in.
But next time we're going to be prepared. I'll have more to say other than just kissing your ass. We'll have really great things to talk about.
I don't know if you want to do that again. That's fine.
That's fine. Yeah. But all right, well, go sick 'em.
All right.
Settle if you can, but if you can't, that's okay too. Tomorrow's another day.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Thank you for joining me today on Above the Legal Limit. If you enjoyed the show and you want to hear more about business and law, hit that subscribe button. If you didn't like the show, keep it to yourself. Remember, there's no limit to what we can achieve. We will see you next week. Until then, even though we're above the legal limit, let's drive safely. Cheers, everyone.